Honestly, this is something that is very personal to me because I've experienced this in so many ways and I've tried to solve it in so many ways. I've tried to use an Excel sheet. I've tried to use separate Git repos to solve it, but none of them still were able to solve one, being collaborative, two, for it to sync across all my infrastructure. So we take those secrets, we store it in the vault for you, and then you can easily add your teams, and this syncs directly into their code base.
Hey, this is Brian, and you're listening to JAMstack Radio, a bi-weekly series where we discuss modern web development with maintainers, founders, and developers. JAMstack Radio is brought to you by Heavybit, the leading investor in developer-first startups. For more information, visit heavybit.com. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, find us on Twitter at JAMstack Radio. Welcome to another installment of JAMstack Radio. I'm B. Dougie, and on the line I got Dante from OnboardBase. Dante, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, you're calling in from Lagos, Nigeria, and it's been a while since I had a community member in the JAMstack from Lagos. So how are things out there in Nigeria going for you?
Lagos is pretty good. Nigeria is awesome. Just the weather lately has been quite rainy and pretty hard to step out of the house.
Well, hopefully your summer gets better and you get the dry season are coming soon. But I didn't bring you on to talk about the weather, really. Brought you on to talk about OnboardBase. But before we jump into that, I just want to get an understanding of your background. So who is Dante and why are you here?
I'm a software engineer and a product designer, and I'm building OnboardBase. In the last 10 plus years, I have joined and led teams both on the design front and in engineering front, which is where I began to solve the problem that is OnboardBase, right? That's where the problem initially came from and why I got so interested in it. Because as I've worked in a couple of places as a contractor, sometimes it's a problem I've tried to solve in different ways, but never really got a nail on it. So that is why we started building OnboardBase.
Yeah, and can you go into what OnboardBase is? Looks like it does quite a few different things. So I'd be curious, how would you describe it?
So OnboardBase is a secret ops infrastructure for dev teams to securely share and work with environment configs across every stage of development without compromising on security, right? In your team, especially in growing teams, you tend to hire junior devs and contractors, and you need a collaborative space for them to work securely, right? A whole lot of tools these days don't handle this properly. And teams have tried to solve this problem in several ways that are not ideal, right? So that is how I would describe OnboardBase.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I have a mental model of what it does and the problem that it solves. And I currently am working on a product that we do have contractors that I'm working alongside with. And things like my Netlify login, they don't actually they're not part of the Netlify team at the moment, because at that point, adding one more team member for whatever, at this point, $20 per month. Not as ideal for me, especially if they're going to be a short run person that's going to help contribute. I also have open source contributors as well that aren't part of the team as well. So I'm enticed to understand, how do I secretly pass around environment variables and tokens, and how are you doing this securely?
Okay, so firstly, you've described a scenario that is very paramount to a lot of teams. What most teams normally do is probably copy and paste this over a communication channel like Slack or email, right? So then the engineers now copy and paste it into their code base. So what we at OnboardBase does is we take those secrets, we store it in the vault for you, and then you can easily add your teams, and this syncs directly into their code base itself through their terminal. So one, they don't get to see it. Two, you, the admin, have absolute control, right? Meaning that you can give them both specific environment access, meaning they don't need to have access to production environment configurations. So probably only maybe development or staging, right? So we don't change anything within your workflow. We just make it in real-time sync and completely secure. Those secrets are encrypted and decrypted directly in your system. So we don't even have access to it. And we try as much as possible to take the liability away, whereby we remove any password use case. So we don't support password at all.
Okay. That's intriguing too as well. So by storing these environment variables, am I interacting with the OnboardBase dashboard and I point all my contributors, team members to the Onboardbase dashboard instead of going to individual developer tools?
Yeah, so what you normally do is go to Onboardbase dashboard, create your environment variables with specific environments, and then sync them to whatever cloud development system that you currently use. No matter the cloud development system, we sync to every cloud development system available right now, right? We've built certain use cases for it. Now, what you then do is install the CLI for your local dev team, and that CLI continuously pushes those secrets directly into their code base. They don't get to see it, they just actively work with it. Meaning that when you change it in one place, it changes across your infrastructure and syncs directly into your team's development environment.
Excellent. Yeah. I like this for the use case that I mentioned earlier with open source. Every now and then we do have some production level stuff that's supporting our hot open sauce at a pizza product, which is essentially product hunt for open source. I take contribution pretty regularly. And a lot of times there might be contribution that needs to touch the database or the API. And what I've done so far is 2 contributors now have access to Superbase as part of the Superbase team. And as they work on it, I currently Superbase doesn't charge per seat, which is why I do this. So they have access to each seat. But the event that I take this product into something that's needs to have a little more security and even some audit logs and everything like that, that's something that I know I can't just invite random open source contributors into the database. Currently, the database doesn't have any sort of sensitive information. So that's also why it's okay. But the new thing we're actually working on will have a portion of sensitive information that needs to be encrypted. There's a lot of questions and concerns around how I'm going to be orchestrating and setting this up. So while you were talking, I actually signed up for Onboardbase, and I actually am going to be looking forward to using this. So I think, what is this, the first 5 minutes of this podcast? You already have me sold. So I already appreciate you coming on board.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Honestly, this is something that is very personal to me because I've experienced this in so many ways, and I've tried to solve it in so many ways. I've tried to use Notion. I've tried to use an Excel sheet. I've tried to use separate Git repos to solve it, but none of them still were able to solve the one being collaborative, two, for it to sync across all my infrastructure, right? So one way Onboardbase excels is the collaborative aspect of it, meaning that while your teammates may be working on specific things locally, they can make merge requests for specific secrets that they need. Meaning that when they make those merge requests, you, the admin, will go to your dashboard and either accept or reject it based on certain reasons, right? And then this then syncs into every stage of development that you currently have. With Onboardbase, you can also see where your secrets are and when they are being used, meaning that you can literally stop those servers from running or restart them if you need to, right? So this gives you real-time observability of your secrets as well. So as much as possible, we'll try to build real live use cases into Onboardbase to make it collaborative, secure, and ease of use, right? So we are saying, you know what? You don't need a security engineer to set this up. You, the project admin, you, the developer, can easily get the security up and running in almost no time.
Excellent. Yeah, I love this. And this is in the notes, actually, My mental model actually goes to Vault. Vault being a tool from HashiCorp and being able to manage secrets.
Yeah.
From my understanding, Vault, I don't know if it actually has a GUI at all, but I know Vault is pretty useful for backend engineers because if you're already SSHing and leveraging Docker images and stuff like that, it's one more CLI to manage. So how does this compare to Vault? And I maybe my assumption is that maybe this is going to be a little more advantageous to folks who are on the front end, but let me know if I'm out of bounds on that.
Okay. Well, Vault is a great tool, but if you've used Vault before, you know it's not easy to use. You probably need a more security engineering based person to set it up, which is one of the places where we are saying, you know what, Onboardbase is easy to use. Anyone can literally set it up for your team, right? You don't need a security engineer to do that. Also, Vault is not built to account for collaboration, right? Meaning if I'm working on something separately, there's almost no way for me to actually make an MR or make a request for this to be added, right? I have to contact my engineering manager. Hey, we need this, explain why I need it before it can even get matched. No, you can do everything directly from OnboardBase, right? So you add the secrets that you need to use or based on the environment that they need to be added, and you put a comment to it as well, why it needs to be there. The engineering manager sees everything on an overview and they really just add it for them, right? And you, the engineering manager, can also add notes specific to each secret so that an engineer can easily go and have an overview of what this secret is for, right? No need to do word of mouth or explain anything. Everything is handled by OnboardBase, right? And there's a collaborative aspect as well as a real-time aspect that Vault does not also account for, right? I honestly used to love Vault because it brought this problem to the front and center, but it's felt like they stopped innovating and it just became something that you would need to hire a very secured engineering person to use. But that's not the way the world is. The world is changing. Teams are going remote and hiring more across the globe, right? You need someone to easily set this up and begin using it. Basically, we're making security mainstream. Let me put it that way, right?
Yeah.
We're saying just set it up, get started.
Yeah, and like I cringe, but also I do the same thing when you talk about passing around environment variables in Slack and Excel spreadsheets and et cetera, et cetera. Like, how do you like? It's obviously it's hard to keep track of the security of your product when you're passing around Excel files or like having shared Google Drives that have sensitive information. Like that's a nightmare waiting to happen. But when you approach it in this way where now anybody could basically, like, I was able to log in and set up a project, and now I'm at the point where I can just upload my M file. That's amazing. And that's exactly what I need. Because like what I need to do is like have a centralized location of where stuff needs to be updated and changed, but also I need to be able to not let go. It sounds bad if I say let go of somebody, but like remove access like on a drop of a hat if I needed to. So not that I have any sort of security concerns, but people come and go and they move to project. So
yeah,
where I'm sitting at, where I have a project that has very limited sensitive data, but has multiple open source contributors across the globe that need to contribute to this thing. Now I don't have a sort of a blocker to get people access to things to help and work alongside me as I develop the product that I'm working on.
Yeah, and we try to make it as contractor friendly as possible, meaning that you can easily switch between accounts as a contractor. So switch between organization or switch between accounts as a contractor. So we try to account for real life scenarios, right? I've seen some tools that try to account for the best case scenarios, but the world is not usually the best case. You need to account for mistakes. You need to account for a couple of things that happen within development. For example, recently we shipped something that scans your code locally and make sure nothing like secrets are being committed, right? So we are not saying, when you get into your Git repo, then you scan it. No, we're saying, while you're still local, you should scan those code base. So in case an engineer makes a mistake, you can easily catch it at that point before those things make it even into the Git repository, right? So we are being proactive to how you are developing as a team rather than where you develop.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're in the right place at the right time. Like, I don't think the world's getting less remote. I think the remote culture is going to be turned up to 11, even more so. And I also think that the access to engineers where they are at currently is also extremely valuable. So, like, folks, they want to hire in Nigeria, they want to hire in Brazil, they want to hire in Singapore, to be able to make sure folks can onboard without a lot of friction. It seems like this is like one sort of step in that puzzle as well. So my question to you is, like, I see the like the integrations and the setup. It seems to be pretty straightforward. What's next for OnboardBase?
So we see OnboardBase as where product development starts and continues, while improving work experience through secured and centralized environments, right? So while we've been able to, say, create environment variables as a service, we want to begin to create environments as a service, right? We want to build out a remote development infrastructure next after our security infrastructure. So while we are powering development, we also want to help you control those development environments that you currently work with. while I've been plagued over the years about managing environment variables, I've also been plagued about it works on my local machine, but it doesn't work on development. It's something I actively still experience. So we are beginning to build out our remote development infrastructure for that. And all these things directly to Onboardbase.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. You just got a new user while we were just chatting. I'm actually very intrigued by what comes out of this product next, because I think this is extremely useful. Just yesterday, we set up a new API. So the API service that we're leveraging is going to be consumed in multiple products, open source products that we're building for open source in particular. And in order to set this up, I actually tested a couple different deployment platforms, to be quite honest. And so I deployed it to DigitalOcean, deployed it to render.com, and then Railway was the other one I deployed it to. Oh, and Flight Control. I deployed it to Flight Control. And just sort of like trying to figure out, it's a new service. I've got some new problems and a new like model that I need like not a server, but I needed some extra, it has a database attached and everything like that. So needed to try some new services out. But in order to try those services out, I had to copy and paste the environment variables to each service. And it was, I think, about 12 environment variables because we have a Docker image that runs and there's a bunch of other stuff that happens. It's pretty nifty stuff. But what I'm getting at is it would have been really nice to connect Onboardbase to whatever provider deployment platform that I was going to deploy to, click that sync button and then deploy. And that way we could test out multiple deployment platforms without needing to copy and paste the entire environment variables. Because most platforms it's one variable per line, which I guess in most cases that works.
Yeah.
But if I want to sync that across like from DigitalOcean to Netlify to somewhere else, yeah, it'd be nice to just have one source of truth.
Yeah, we actually use a whole lot of servers because we try to maintain a multi-cloud infrastructure. So we almost never go down.
Yeah.
Right. So this has actually enabled us build out a whole lot of integrations and documentations for several different servers. And if you don't want to use our CLI, we also maintain SDKs, 3 SDKs, JS, Ruby, and Python. So you can also use that if you need to. And if you want to also build your own SDK, we provide a couple of API references and we went ahead to help you write a proper documentation on how you can actually encrypt and decrypt secrets. I don't think any platform has actually done this, but we did this because we know when you are building your own SDKs, you need to be able to decrypt and encrypt secrets.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so I'll definitely be checking that out. I basically signed up as we were chatting. But did you want to explain like how people get started with Onboardbase?
Yeah, so once you get into Onboardbase, you sign up, create an account, you upload your ENV, and then connect it to any server you currently use. We also send you an email inviting you to the Onboardbase customer community, whereby we assign you a specific and dedicated engineer to your account. Reason being that sometimes there are some use cases we may not already have accounted for, but we can easily put out a guide for it. And so we discuss with the team on whatever their use cases are and help them easily get started or set up.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, look forward to engaging with those folks. Like I said, I'm ready to use this thing. This thing is it's going to solve a problem, a pain point that we have currently, like literally yesterday. So can't wait to leverage it for that problem. And I'll be in touch if we have any questions and if there's any sort of use cases that we come across.
Awesome. I'm sure you will get that email quite soon. So
excellent. So Dante, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Onboardbase. I do encourage everyone who's listening, like go to the onboardbase.com and definitely check it up, sign up, and test it with at least one environment, one project, and invite some team members on there. So yeah, with that said, I want to transition us to picks. These are jam picks, things that we're jamming on. It could be music, technology related, all of the above. And if you don't mind, I'll go first.
Sure.
I actually just recently came across a tool because I'm using Superbase for my database needs and actually authentication needs as well. So there's a tool called Heavybit. It's extremely new. They're still just getting started. And what it does is it provides a dashboard on top of your Superbase tables and your basically all your Superbase auth and everything. It's pretty clever, and for folks like myself, who I do have folks who integrate with the open source project that need access to an admin dashboard. We actually originally started building an admin dashboard for my project, and it was really because we're trying to find out top open source repos. It's hot-open-source.pizza. I mentioned earlier, top open source repos, and we just want to be able to feature one repo. Mm-hmm. So to do that, we have to go in the Superbase table and then mark it. So instead, it'd be great if anybody, community member, can feature an open source repo just by flipping a flag true or false, or going into an admin dashboard and flipping it true false. So with DashiBase, it gives you a GUI interface on top of that table, so that way anybody on the team can interface with it. So that's my first pick. My second pick is this book called Sprint. Sprint is a book that I recently picked up as I was planning on trying to ship product quicker. It's a book, actually, the guy who I'm working as a designer with, he had recommended us leveraging it. And it's actually been super helpful because I've always worked in sprints. I've done agile methodology, but I've never really sat and thought about that. I've always been dictated as an engineer. This is our sprint. This is how it works. But never took a step back to understand why and how to get feedback. So I highly recommend if anybody is working on an agile team, or if you're working on a product, even a solo product, I recommend setting up a sprint so that way you can see what you can get done in a structured amount of time. So definitely check it out. So Dante, you have a pick for us?
Yeah. Well, something I've been researching a lot is self-hosting as a service. It's something that constantly comes up for us. Teams requesting for, hey, do you have on-prem and the rest? And I've been looking into the space and trying to figure out why there is currently no solution for it. And I can tell you it's for very good reasons, but I still feel that there are a couple of things around self-hosting that can be automated. And I look forward to when we get to a stage whereby we can have a solution like this. Something I always like to tell people is the process to achieving something simple is often complicated. So don't be deterred or discouraged whereby you're trying to build something, you're trying to learn something, and it's quite complicated as well, right? Don't worry about it. You are getting there. The more complicated it is at the beginning, the simpler it will be at the end. So that's kind of my advice for people. And in terms of book, I've been reading this book by Asken, How to Get Acquired. He's the CEO of MicroAcquired, so I've kind of reading up on it, and pretty good insights, honestly. I'll say anybody should go grab the book and get to reading it. You can't even believe how much gold is in it.
Yeah, it's funny. I follow that guy on Twitter. I don't know how I stumbled across him. Probably, I did see that you were part of On Deck. Maybe he was a part of On Deck as well. But yeah, he has a lot of insights. He's worth following on Twitter. And I did pick up the book. I have not read it, but I look forward to thumbing through that. So if you're recommending it, I'll definitely try to get to that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you definitely should. Yeah, so it's a great book.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much. Awesome conversation. I will be in touch definitely about this product, as well as listeners. Try OnboardBase. Do not store your secrets inside of a Google Drive or an Excel spreadsheet, or send them over Slack. There's a solution for you. It's called OnboardBase. And don't forget to keep spreading the jam. That's all we have time for today. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you'd like to suggest a topic, find us on Twitter at JAMstack Radio. This show is brought to you by Heavybit, the leading investor in developer-first startups. To learn more about Heavybit, visit heavybit.com.